Just ahead on CTV News tonight, tip workers take their fight to the State House for higher minimum wage.
I'm back for day 2 of the 2024 General Assembly, and some new legislation is being introduced. I'll have all the information for you coming up next on CTV News.
Plus, undocumented immigrants could soon have access to health care. And a top Maryland election official is arrested. Those stories and more next.
Good evening, I'm Taylor Thomas with a CTV News update. Our first story tonight, as Maryland's minimum wage goes up, tip workers say they feel left behind.
The One Fair Wage Coalition is here at the Maryland State House today to support a new piece of legislation. They're advocating for a bill that, if passed, would require businesses to raise wages for tipped employees and not include any tips in the calculation of those wages. The state minimum wage was increased to $15 an hour on January 1st, but tipped workers were not included in that change.
Tip workers in Maryland make $3.63 per hour, and so, you know, the goal is to pass something similar like DC with I-82.
My hopes are that everyone gets to be on the same minimum wage, and also like tips would be like a bonus. So that way we can bring in more people that want to work in the industry instead of see it as something to settle in.
One Fair Wage, we're like the union for restaurant workers. I would say if I talk to 10 workers, 9 of them emphatically are supportive of it. And, you know, I think that we have, you know, champions and labor sponsoring the bill. And so it definitely means a lot that they took this step to show that, like, you know, restaurant workers are important as well.
The bill was sponsored by Senators Ellis and McCray and by Delegate Buafo in the House. Mariah Jalad, CTV News.
Maryland Governor Wes Moore also announces 4 major digital transformation initiatives. Moore signed an executive order on artificial intelligence. It calls for the creation of a Maryland Digital Service Team, the state's first ever digital accessibility policy, and a cybersecurity partnership with the Maryland National Guard. The governor says the goal is to make Maryland more competitive while ensuring the state's technology is secure.
The world is moving fast. And if we don't keep up, we're going to fall behind. I mean, I think about it this way. My iPhone asks me to update it like every 8 weeks. But we have not updated the way that government works in the past 8 years. How can we win the next decade if the tools that we have to win the decade are...
Legislation that made it through the House last year but died in the Senate is getting revived this legislative session. Some lawmakers are pushing once again for the Access to Care Act, a bill that would make health care accessible for all Marylanders regardless of citizenship or employment status. The measure would give undocumented immigrants the ability to purchase health insurance through the Maryland Health Exchange.
You know, it's essential that we do everything that we can here in Maryland to ensure all of our residents. I think the COVID-19 pandemic really showed us what lack of coverage can do to communities. And so the Access to Care Act is allowing individuals that are undocumented the opportunity to purchase health care through the Maryland Healthcare Exchange. I think the more people that we have insured, the better healthcare ecosystem we have here in Maryland.
Opponents say the legislation could cost the state millions of dollars during a time of fiscal constraint. Advocates say health care for all reduces the state's uninsured rate while ensuring people have access to health care. As we head into the 2024 election season, the Department of Justice has released information on efforts to protect the right to vote, prosecute election crimes, and secure elections. In a release, the department highlighted those efforts. They include, among other things, ensuring compliance with the Voting Rights Act, requiring accessibility voting systems for those with disabilities, enforcement of statutes that prohibit voter intimidation and voter interference based on race, color, national origin, or religion, and requiring states to provide for absentee voting for uniformed service members serving away from home. For more information, you can go to the website right there on your screen. Congress is trying to once again avert a partial government shutdown this month. Congressional leaders have two deadline dates to meet. One is January 19th and the other is February 2nd. If a bipartisan bill cannot be reached by either dates, certain departments like Transportation, HUD, and Department of Energy would have to stop work. A sticking point for a number of Republicans in the House is border security and immigration. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer remains optimistic that a deal can be reached by the January 19th deadline. A Republican member of the Maryland Board of Elections is arrested by federal authorities for his alleged role in the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. 52-year-old Carlos Ayala of Salisbury was charged with felony civil disorder in a criminal complaint, as well as related misdemeanor offenses. Ayala was confirmed to the state board last May and arrested by FBI on Tuesday. More than 1,200 people have been charged for crimes related to the 2021 breach of the U.S. Capitol. This afternoon, Ayala resigned from the board effective immediately. You're watching CTV News. I'm Taylor Thomas. Up next, the coastal flooding in Annapolis and its economic impact on businesses.
Some businesses in downtown Annapolis are beginning to clean up after Tuesday's storm. I'm Katara Jones. I have more details coming up on CTV News.
When I arrived in the U.S. at 19, I struggled to find job opportunities without a high school diploma. Everything I have, my education, my career, my marriage, I owe to the Adult Literacy Center and my teachers.
Your achievement has set an example for so many students. Most importantly, your daughter.
Education was the key that unlocked all my opportunities.
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free adult education centers near you.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Well, many businesses in downtown Annapolis are rolling up their sleeves and surveying the damage from Tuesday's storm. CTV's Katara Jones is out at one of those establishments to determine who's determined, by the way, to rebound.
I'm outside of Pip's restaurant, which has been here on Dock Street for 15 years, but now it has a red notice sign that says "Keep out, unfit for human habitation." Now, this sign was put here after Tuesday's storm that brought heavy rain and flooding to the downtown Annapolis area. Now, CTV spoke to the owner about his plans to get his business back up and running.
Inside our shop, we ended up with 2 to 2.5 feet of water. We moved as much equipment to the back of the shop as we could. We still ended up losing sandwich stations, refrigerators, fryer, ice maker, close to 10 grand in equipment damage.
This was an extreme flood, the third worst in the history of the city. The water got to 5 feet. When it gets to 5 feet, it comes up through the storm drains into the street and then into the businesses at certain levels. So that's what happened here. A lot of businesses that usually don't get sustained damage in this event did get sustained damage because it was such high water. Food service do get closed down because the drains get blocked up, there's a lot of drywall gets wet, all those things, you know, that has to be rectified. So we're currently working on getting some emergency grants to the businesses. We're just declaring a state of emergency here that will enable the businesses to get access to up to $50,000 grants. And
do you want to stay here on Dock Street? I mean, you've been here 15 years.
Yeah, we've established quite a following down here, and it's a small community. You know everybody that works here, all the other people in the restaurant industry, all the locals. They really support us. So yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a fantastic location.
Mayor Gavin Buckley says the city will do everything it can to help the businesses that have been impacted by Tuesday's storm reopen. Katara Jones, CTV News.
Meantime, more heavy rain is expected tomorrow night, and now Maryland officials are asking for your help documenting any type of flooding you see. The Department of Natural Resources is asking for your photos of flooding across the state so it can design strategies to minimize the effects of climate change. The flooding does not have to be catastrophic to make an impact. It could be as simple as your storm drains overflowing. To assist scientists with the project, download the app mycoast.org/MD. Prince George's police have identified the victim found shot inside of his car last night along Sheriff Road. The victim was 18-year-old Olamide Olankaiai of Upper Marlboro. Detectives say he was shot in the 1200 block of Dunbar Oaks Drive and then drove away until he crashed into a wooded area in the 5300 block of Sheriff Road. Olankaiai succumbed to his injuries at an area hospital. Police are offering a reward of up to $25,000 for information that leads to an arrest and conviction in this case. A woman is dead this evening after a two-vehicle crash in Brandywine Wednesday night. Maryland State Police responded to northbound Branch Avenue and Earnshaw Drive just after 11:30. Investigators have shown, and the investigation has shown that a Hyundai was traveling southbound on Branch Avenue at Earnshaw Drive when the driver was attempting to make a left turn when it was struck by a BMW. The female passenger in the Hyundai suffered serious injuries and was taken to shock trauma. The driver of the BMW wasn't injured. No words on any potential charges. The number of law enforcement officers who died in the line of duty last year decreased by 39% compared to the previous year. This is according to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund, which is based in Washington and includes a wall with the names of fallen officers. Digging into the numbers, the end-of-year report shows 136 officers died in the line of duty in 2023. The previous year saw 224. There were no reported officers' deaths in Maryland last year. The causes include firearm fatalities, traffic-related incidents, medical events, and COVID. The organization says nearly 24,000 officers have been killed in the line of duty since 1786. Maryland has some of the longest wait times in the nation, according to an oversight commission that regulates hospital rates. Nearly every emergency room in the state has a median wait time of more than 5 hours. Some patients wait nearly a full day before they're even seen, and those wait times don't include how long it takes to receive care or treatment. Some state lawmakers say they're trying to change those statistics.
Maryland has the longest wait time in the nation. So last session we put in a bill. The bill did not pass because we ran out of time. But I asked the Hospital Association to continue doing the work that was required in the bill in the interim, and they have done so. And they're going to have recommendations in January for us, so that the legislature can act and try to alleviate the problem.
That report is due in mid-January. Meantime, Prince George's is one of the hardest hit jurisdictions with long wait times. The council recently developed a work group to study the issue. It will examine factors such as healthcare staffing, patient turnaround, and the number of primary care physicians in emergency rooms. An upscale gated community in Woodmore is facing a federal discrimination lawsuit that claims the subdivision's gates are blocking access to a public road. The Daily Record reports that the suit is an escalation of a spat between the community's HOA and a country club that sits along Pleasant Prospect Road. People who live in the community receive gate passes. Others must stop at a gatehouse to be questioned by a security guard who can take photos of the driver's license and their plates and decide who can have access to the road. Heads up, if you use the Woodrow Wilson Bridge to get around, the Maryland Department of Transportation will begin its regularly scheduled maintenance work on the I-95-495 section of the Wilson Bridge. Work will begin at 11 tonight, and it should wrap up around 5 a.m. Friday morning. Drivers are being advised that at times there will be full temporary stops in both directions for the opening of the bridge. The State Highway Administration is asking motorists to stay alert and to be patient. Coming up, CTV sports reporter Simon Buggs has a preview on today's sports page. I've heard there's a shakeup in the college football world.
Hey everybody, and coming up in sports, UMD men's basketball coach Kevin Willard touches on how his team can improve going forward, and a college football coach makes a surprising announcement. Don't go anywhere.
Diversity is in our nature. Diverse cultures, identities, skills, and knowledge. Diversity is in nature, too. Biodiversity, plants, animals, and ecosystems. It connects us and sustains us. But nature's biodiversity is at risk now more than ever before, and our own future is at stake. So ask yourself, how can you contribute to protecting all life on our planet? Because the future is in our hands.
You can now check out updates and messages from the city of Hyattsville via kiosks at several locations around the city. The electronic screen is similar to technology used in a Kindle e-reader. It automatically shows messages from the city's Facebook page, online calendar, and other news or updates. The solar-powered message boards are located in Driscoll and High Ridge Parks, as well as a pop-up park and on the Rhode Island Avenue Trolley Trail.
Okay, everybody, we begin your Thursday sports page with some college hoops news. The UMD men's basketball team is at the halfway point of their season and are currently 9-6. Through the first half of the year, the Terps have played well defensively as they are one of the top-ranked teams in their conference on that end of the floor. But head coach Kevin Willard expressed the need for his squad to improve offensively.
I like the fact that we're still the #1 ranked defensive team in the Big Ten, and we've struggled to score. So we've played a lot of transition defense. So the fact that we haven't been able to press, we haven't been able to set up our defense as much as we probably would like to. The fact that we've continued to make it hard for teams to score, I think is something I'm really excited that if we can ever start scoring on a consistent basis, then you add both those together, that'd be really good for us.
The Terps will have a chance to avoid 3 straight losses tonight versus Michigan, but they will have their hands full dealing with a talented Wolverines team.
And Michigan scores the ball extremely well. They shoot the basketball from 4 spots. Doug is a dynamic player, both offensively and defensively. I think the biggest thing with them is how well they shoot the basketball.
Tip-off is at 7 o'clock. Sticking with college sports, some shocking news out of the world of college football as it is the end of an era for the University of Alabama as head coaching legend Nick Saban has retired. Saban, who won 6 titles with the Crimson Tide, coached in Tuscaloosa for 17 years and compiled a dominant 206-29 record. Moving on to the NBA, the Washington Wizards continue to struggle as they lost their 31st game of the season last night to the Indiana Pacers 112-104. They will try and get back in the win column on Saturday versus the Atlanta Hawks. And finally, the Washington Capitals will take the ice tonight, matching up against the Seattle Kraken at 7 o'clock. And that is your Thursday sports page. Simon Buggs, CTV Sports.
Thanks, Simon. All right, let's get a quick check on our 3-day weather forecast tonight. 42 and clear, sunny, then rain on Friday with a high of 47, breezy and 49 on Saturday, and 42 and sunny on Sunday. And that wraps up our CTV News tonight. Join us again tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. I'm Taylor Thomas. Good night.